Hello nerds and nerdettes, welcome back to the channel where once again we have a new manga review for you guys. Today we'll be taking a look at Hellsing by Kota Hirano in the Dark Horse Deluxe editions. Before we jump into the review or talk about any of the details of the book, a quick reminder that if you are looking for any of the books that I feature on this channel, you can use the channel sponsor organicpricebooks.com. You can use the discount code STAYNERDY for $2 off your order, or when ordering 3 or more books, you can use the code STAYNERDY, ship it together to get 5% off that entire order. Also, for my manga lovers, I am a Right Stuff affiliate, so if you'd like to help support the channel when ordering from Right Stuff, you can use my affiliate link down below. Both the affiliate link and the OPB code are great ways to help support the channel. Every little bit counts, so thank you to those that do decide to contribute. But let's go ahead and get into the book. So this entire manga series is collected between 3 Dark Horse Deluxe editions. The first volume having 4, while the other 2 have 3 volumes. And that's mainly because the original series had 10 tankobons, so they did have to sneak in a extra volume somewhere between the 3 volumes. Now, this particular volume, volume 1 of the Dark Horse Deluxe editions, does have a page count of 696 pages, and the other volumes do have somewhere around that page count. It really varies. The third volume has some extras, so it still is somewhere around that page count as well, so give or take a couple pages throughout each of the deluxe editions. But they do all have the cover price of $50, which is pretty much the standard Dark Horse Deluxe Edition manga cover price when it comes to any of these volumes. But let's go ahead and jump into the manga itself, take a look at the book, some of the differences between other deluxe editions, and talk a little bit about the story overall. Here we are, Hellsing Deluxe Edition Volume 1. We are going to be taking a look at Volumes 1 through 3, because it is a little bit shorter of a series, so I am going to put it all in one video. So bear with me, guys. So taking a quick look at the volume, it does have kind of that typical Dark Horse Deluxe Edition manga look in a lot of ways, but we can go ahead and compare it to some of the other Dark Horse Deluxe Editions. I do have Blade of the Immortal here. Obviously, Blade of the Immortal reads from left to right, while Hellsing reads from right to left, but the texture is the main reason I have this as a comparison piece, is because the front and back and spine of Hellsing is very smooth, almost like a Bible. I'm not sure if that's coming up on camera very well, but there's almost no texture to it other than a leather texture. When it comes to Blade of the Immortal, it is still smooth, but it's a little bit more of a drier, more dehydrated leather. And then when comparing it to Berserk, obviously Berserk has a lot more of a texture with these almost like dots on it in a lot of ways. So I do think that's a great touch. It does feel very Bible-y, which is very fitting, obviously, with the cross on it and the inclusion of religious aspects as well as vampires. So I definitely think it's a great touch, but there's not much more to talk about as far as the look of the book. So let's go ahead and jump into the series itself. All right, hopping right into the series. So we do have some blood red end pages here. That is the same from or in all volumes. And then we do have a title page here in Japanese, and then a title page here, Kota Hirano, Hellsing Deluxe Edition. Obviously, this is more of the creators or the people that helped make this format. And then here's the table of contents here. Make note of how many chapters are included. This initial volume 1 does have 4 volumes contained within, while the other 2 have 3 volumes, so keep that in mind. We open up to the first chapter, Order 1, and the first appearance of our main character, Alucard. So a little bit about this story. This does follow the Hellsing organization, which is essentially your kind of typical supernatural fighting organization that we do see a lot of times in pop culture, mediums, media, whatever it may be. And the leader of said organization is Integra Hellsing. That is not her real name. Her name is much more longer, but I really cannot remember her entire name. So You can Google that if you're really that curious. But Integra is the offspring of the character Van Helsing, obviously, if you can't tell by the name. And because of the Helsing name and Van Helsing hunting down vampires, they eventually, or Van Helsing eventually comes face to face with a very powerful vampire known as Alucard, eventually defeats said vampire named Alucard, and that vampire then pledges his allegiance to the Hellsing organization to pretty much be used as a hitman of sorts or a weapon of sorts against the supernatural, against vampires, ghouls, werewolves, whatever it may be. And that's pretty much where the story picks up here. We do have a character named Alucard, which is Dracula backwards, if you guys have not caught on to that. And you get pretty much introduced to him very quickly, and you really get to see just how powerful he is comparatively to other vampires. You also get introduced to the character of Integra, as well as Police Girl, who is almost a newer-esque character to the Hellsing organization. You see her origins actually take place. And then you also have the introduction of Walter, who is Integra's badass butler. He's a shining star as far as characters go. I very much enjoyed his character. A lot of fun. And really, that's the brunt of the story. You do have the Hellsing organization coming face to face with a newer organization called Millennium, which is the existing members of the Nazi Party that existed or ran away after World War II into South America, and eventually have shown their face once again with a new name, Millennium, and weaponizing vampires, but not organic vampires or natural-made vampires, but more scientific-made and weaponized vampires. And that then picks up where the Hellsing organization then intervenes. Here's a look at Walter here. But the entire book is full of a slew of all kinds of different characters, another of which is Anderson. Sorry for the camera there. Is Anderson. He's a very interesting character as well. One of the things that the mangaka Hirano actually does do with characters like Anderson, as well as some other characters, is he almost writes their accent into their speech bubbles, which I think is very creative and very cool to see. Anderson is a Scottish priest from the Vatican who is almost in a lot of ways the opposite but same organization as Hellsing, but on the opposite side of the spectrum, I guess. They have a much more religious connection to hunting supernatural beings and really going after those that they see as unholy or evil, such as vampires, or even in some cases humans like Integra, who are weaponizing vampires. But you do have almost a three-way war that does take place, which is super interesting, and that takes place between the Vatican, the Hellsing organization, and Millennium. So that's pretty much all the key players and the synopsis of the story. I wish I could say I'm spoiling a lot or not spoiling a lot, but that's literally the brunt of the story. That's as far as it goes. There is really maybe one curveball that the mangaka throws at you, that Hirano throws at you, but really what I just said is 100% what you're getting. You're getting three organizations hunting monsters, Nazi vampires, all-out war, supernatural stuff. But let's jump to the next volume. Here we are, volume 2. Like I said, very similar design here. So let's just get right into it. So as far as the story goes, like I said, it's not super deep, not super in-depth. It's really a lot of just badassery taking place, and that's really the main reason of the existence of this manga. You have Alucard doing just awesome vampire things, dropping awesome and edgy one-liners, dual-wielding pistols. One's called the Jackal, which is black and has exploding rounds and has very intricate etchings on the side of the pistol itself. It's what you would come to expect from a early 90s manga, early 90s to late 90s manga, which is just edge, sexualized women, a lot of just kind of predictable stuff, but still in the best way possible. The character of Alucard is very flamboyant yet intimidating at the same time. Walter is very mysterious yet also intimidating. Integra is sexy yet intimidating. You're noticing kind of a theme there. Really, the only kind of character that is not fitting of that mold is Police Girl, and we do get to see some character development with her character when it comes to the end of the story. You do have some character development when it pertains to Walter as well, so that's the extent of character development, really. So it doesn't come without any character development or character changes. There is some substance here, but it's mainly here to have fun, and that's really what it's meant for. The entire Final Fantasy, this is not what you would expect it to be. This is the Vatican's army. I know that's a little odd imagery there. It's not about that, but yeah, so the best part of this entire series, in my opinion, is actually the second volume. I think the second volume picks up quite a bit. The first volume, there's a lot of kind of setup and build up when it pertains to the characters and when it pertains to powers and what characters are capable of, etc., etc. This second volume, I think, is the best volume out of the three, in my opinion, especially when it comes to the Final Fantasy chapters and everything like that, where you really have some pretty awesome action sequences, some pretty awesome art. I mean, some of the details that Hirano captures through some of these panels are beyond impressive. You're kind of seeing some of the scale and scope here, doing each one of these members of the Millennium Army and the details of the wounds and Alucard's hair and the backgrounds here. You definitely get a sense of just how incredible some of the art throughout is, even if certain aspects of the story are lacking, at least for my personal taste. But let's go ahead and jump to the third volume. Here we are with the third volume, so let's get right into it. One of the best aspects of his art, in my opinion, here's the Jackal making an appearance here, is his use of negative space and the absence of color and the absence of light. You're seeing it a lot here when it comes to really the dark panels, even some of the panels here where there's nothing but blackness, even here where there's some blackness as well. But what you're really seeing take place, obviously, in the third volume is the main climax. You're seeing Anderson, who in a lot of ways almost is a rival to Alucard, almost a supporting character in his own regard as well, the equal but opposite of Alucard, and he's a very enjoyable character, even though some of his dialogue is a little difficult to read, because the mangaka, like I touched on before, does capture accents in his speech bubbles, so sometimes they are very thick accents and you really have to kind of decipher just what's being said. At least that's what I had to do, but I'm not the most intelligent reader. But here we are again with the absence of light and the use of black, which I think Hirano honestly just excels at and really just makes his art shine that much more. Here's another example of all the details. All of these soldiers on pikes, just very, very interesting. And each panel just leaves you just staring at it, trying to pick up each of the details. And I very much do enjoy this book as a art piece more than a story, at least in my opinion. I do know there's a lot of fans of this series, so maybe I will get some flack for that, but overall, that's just how I received the story when reading it, and it honestly seems like Hirano kind of meant for it to be received in that way. Based off interviews and things alike, it seems like he didn't take it very serious either. He just really wanted to make a manga that he enjoyed to make, that he would enjoy to read, and I think he did make a product here that is enjoyable to read, but as far as a critically acclaimed piece or reading it as a critic, I do think it is lacking in some areas pertaining to the story. It is very one-dimensional when it pertains to the story, but I do think that was the objective overall. But still, very interesting stuff. Definitely a manga worth checking out if you are into that over sexualized, high intensity, lots of violence, blood, and gore style of manga with a lot, and I mean a lot of edge, then definitely check this out. I do think it has a lot of merit for the right reader. I think young Illuminati probably would have very much enjoyed Hellsing, but obviously me in my late 20s now, it didn't exactly hit. So I did enjoy it, but not as much as maybe some. But that does wrap up the internals. The only thing to really touch on pertaining to the third volume is the extras in the third volume. So you do get a extra story, Crosshairs. You do get a lot of notes from Hirano himself, but the main aspect, which a lot of people had a lot of gripes about when reading this, is that all of the volume covers are included in volume 3 in the back, which honestly is breathtaking. Each one of these covers, very, very beautiful stuff, but they are included in the third volume in the back and not between each volume in each individual volume itself. But that does wrap up the overhead shots, so let's jump back to the table. And welcome back, nerds and nerdettes. So this is a very interesting manga, to say the least. I definitely think it's targeted towards a certain type of reader, and that tends to be a little bit more of a younger audience and a edgier audience that does enjoy the vampires, the blood and the gore, the over-the-top action, the somewhat lewd scenes that do take place throughout this manga. So keep that in mind when possibly thinking about purchasing this manga, is it is targeted towards a certain type of reader, and you definitely get that vibe when reading. The mangaka Hirano, from the best of my knowledge, did do some hentai style manga in his career at some point, and you definitely get that vibe, especially when it comes to the contents of the first volume and some of the lore that they explore when it pertains to vampires, because it's a little bit of a twist in a lot of ways. Some of the panels, especially when it involves one of the characters, Police Girl, which is how I best remember her, or her name at least, or how she's referenced throughout the story. There are some very interesting panels that are illustrated throughout this, so keep that in mind. It's not exactly for the faint of heart. You are going to be getting a lot of lewd scenes, over-the-top violence, and just overall some pretty insane stuff, but that's really because you can tell again that Hirano was writing and drawing a manga that he himself would enjoy, and really that seems to be the main goal that he was set out to do, and you definitely get that vibe. There is a lot of passion in these characters, in these panels, and in the art itself. You can tell he's enjoying what he's doing, and you see a very quick progression and improvement when it comes to the art throughout each of the volumes. The first volume starting a little bit rough and unsure, and then by the later volumes, some of the panels and the intricate details that he fits into the panels are beyond impressive. I have heard this compared to Berserk sometimes. I don't necessarily agree with that comparison unless we're mainly talking about the violence, but as far as the story goes, I do not think they're comparable, so I wouldn't say, oh, if you like Berserk, you're going to like Hellsing, because I don't think it's as deep or the story is as impactful as that of Berserk. Now, as far as the story goes, it is very simple, and I think it was set to be exactly that. I don't think the mangaka Hirano really set out to make anything deep or a story with a lot of underlying meanings. I think he really just set out to create something that was cool, fun. You could kind of unplug the brain while you read, and that's really the main objective, and he definitely achieves that objective. I think the use of the supernatural creatures throughout are absolutely great. It's very interesting. The involvement of the Nazi Party and Millenniums, very, very, very interesting as well. Especially throwing in the Nazis in there, because a lot of, if not everybody on the face of the earth can pretty much agree that's like the best villain ever, because we all hate Nazis. And I also think the character of Integra was very well done as well. A very strong and powerful woman character that's almost like a Nick Fury in a way, where she's really a no-holds-bar, just balls to the wall type of character, and I very much enjoyed her character. And the art throughout, like I said, when it comes to the details, the use of negative space and the color black in general is very, very beautiful, but the story is 100% lacking a sense of depth and a sense of importance, but I do think that was the main objective. So overall, I am going to give it the rating of 4.8. I think this is targeted towards a certain type of reader. I don't necessarily think that I am the certain type of reader that it is targeted towards. I still did enjoy a lot of the fight scenes and kind of art aspects of this book, and I also enjoy this format as well. I think this is by far the superior format. Absolutely just beautiful books when it comes to Dark Horse Deluxe editions, but the story is definitely not the best manga or the best reading material that I've ever read, but I'd love to hear from you guys. But that does wrap up today's review. Thank you so much for watching. As always, comment down below. Let me know if you're a Hellsing fan, if you're not a Hellsing fan, if this went over your head, missed the target. I would love to hear from you guys, because your opinions matter just as much as mine when it comes to this community and this channel. So please do so. Let me know. Also, I do want to remind you guys that throughout this entire month of October, I am going to be in and out of the state that I live in, kind of traveling and doing some personal things. So coming up here is going to be another somewhat lull when it comes to the channel and social medias. So be patient with me again. I apologize. I will be back in full force in the month of November. I have so many new releases I need to catch up on, review for you guys, get out there in the interwebs, so expect that. Also expect a 1 year of doing YouTube Q&A, which I plan to drop as well, and of course the 1K celebration giveaway that I did promise you guys, that is coming as well. I just want to make sure it's a giveaway worth doing, so I try to find something that's exciting, at least for me or for you guys, however it kind of works. It's just, I want to make it impactful. But thank you for watching. I truly appreciate each and every one of you guys. Let me know if you enjoy manga, if you want more manga reviews from the channel, if you want more comic reviews, indie, big two. I'd love to hear from you guys. But thank you again, and of course, as always, stay nerdy.